App Store optimization. So the way I see it is that there are 3 million apps on Google and Apple, and the prices for an install for paid promotion is so expensive. So developers must find a new way to increase organic and still be competitive in this market. We created a dream team of panel members, so let's have a quick introduction here.
I'm the first. Hi, I'm Guy Hollander from Trofit. We help game developers to use the power of their virtual items, not just as a monetization solution, but also as a promotion solution.
Hey, I'm Ted Nash. I'm the CEO of a company called TapDAC. We call ourselves an inventory management platform, so we allow developers to cross-promote between their own network of applications, and we run one of the biggest direct deal marketplaces between different developers as well.
I'm Blake Pollock from the ASO project. We're a full-service ASO app store optimization company. We are performance-based, and that's it.
That works. Gad Maor, Store Maven. We help developers reduce the cost of user acquisition by A/B testing different App Store pages.
Hi, I'm Ilya. Currently with Tune, attribution analytics platform. I used to be with Chartboost, always looking for new ways for game developers actually to promote their games. And we started out as an attribution analytics platform, which is basically you're doing paid marketing and you want to see what the result is and if you're making any return on investment. And lately we moved more in towards the app store optimization and retargeting space, which basically fits exactly in this topic because we think that there's a lot of ways to find organic users, and once you have a user, to use it to the full extent of its lifetime, because that's also the other thing that I think we should talk about is once you have a user, what can you do to keep them being engaged with your product?
Yeah, good. So we'll start with some general questions and then dig into more deeper and more sophisticated and interesting topics. So just to start, ASO is a very broad topic. What is the most important thing for ASO, and what is ASO for you? Maybe.
So for us, there's two main platforms to look at. Obviously, you have Amazon, but Google Play and iOS, and you focus on different aspects of ASO depending on the platform. So I would say, in a nutshell, I mean, there's a number of things off-site that you can do, but as far as in the app or on the app page is, having a good title, description, keywords in iOS, having great icons, screenshots, all those things play into effect of having a good optimized app.
For me, first of all, sometimes when I think of this term ASO, I think that it doesn't do much justice to what we do, because optimization is, and definitely App Store optimization, it's not something that you do when you want to optimize, after you've done and exhausted a lot of channels. I really see this as App Store marketing, helping developers market their apps on the store. And for us, ASO is about visibility, of course, so it has to do with keywords and ranking. And it's also about performance, which is once users discover your app and they're on your App Store page, how do we get the right users, the better users, to actually click the install button and move to the game or to the app?
I agree with everything said before, but what we also try to do is to make you understand as a developer, if you do paid marketing, what is the effect on your organic uptake? So you can see how many people are actually installing your app through the app stores. And then you start understanding the real value of your paid campaigns. That's one aspect. And the other thing is, what I think is also important, is understand what your users are actually, how they're reviewing your app in the app stores. That's one tool that I think that is most commonly used, is understand why users give your app a 1-star rating in a specific territory, because then you can actually start specifically targeting problems that occur in your game. I think this is also something you do, is it optimizes the conversion.
I think one really important aspect to add to it is overall, in the overall picture of App Store optimization, is that it's not like a one-time thing where you set your description and your name and your keywords and you forget about it. It really should be an ongoing process, and that's why people use all the companies up here, A/B testing and You got to constantly be optimizing the app. There's always new opportunities, and just like the app stores themselves, it's always evolving.
It's basically
way-
SEO for your app store.
Yeah, exactly.
The way I see today the App Store, and I'll take your quote, and then you can elaborate on it. You need to be or very rich or very lucky to succeed in this 3.5 million apps competition, 3,000 apps launched every day. Ted, as a developer from the very first days of the App Store, maybe you can give us some insights of what worked on the very first days versus what would you focus now when the market is very different than how it was.
Sure. So I suppose the first thing to say would be to elaborate on the quote. We've just raised a new round of funding, and one of our sort of lead quotes that helped us get the money was, as a developer now, the reality is to generate any success in the app stores, you either have to be one of two things, which is either rich or lucky. Rich in the sense that you've raised a boatload of VC money, and you are building the type of game or application that can be ROI positive if you're buying on CPI channels. The other is lucky. And that's obviously getting features within the App Store. We see continuously on our platform the impact that features on both Google Play and Apple have on an application, and it really is, it's pretty remarkable, both on a global feature perspective and also local. I think the App Store has evolved massively since I started in 2008. And to be honest, when it first began, when I was involved, there was only 30,000 apps in the store. And that was a point where it was relatively easy to generate reviews for an applications. I guess the algorithms behind iOS at the time, or the App Store, were very primitive, so it was fairly easy to game, to be honest with you. A lot of paid for applications switching to free, picked up by a lot of the free or paid to free channels as well. Fast forward to now, as you say, there's it's a very, very sort of convoluted system, and I think there's much more that goes into the algorithms within the App Store than meets the eye. It's not just about titles, it's not just about keywords, it's not just about reviews. There's a huge amount actually within the application now that matters too. So all about re-engagement, how long do your customers stay within your application? Are there any tools and services that you can use to continuously re-engage them? I think now that plays much more into the success of an application than ever before.
Let's speak a bit about engagement, because there's so many tips and tricks and how to have a better keywords optimization. But at the end of the day, if your app doesn't have a product that is personalized and is shiny enough, so users will want to stay there, then all your overall ASO plan is lacked. So let's speak about how you see engagement as a crucial part here, and how an app developer can improve his engagement so that he'll have this part of the equation solved.
Yeah, I just want to take one step back. I only partially agree with that. I mean, we have to have some kind of controversy on this panel, I think. So
let's fight on it.
Yeah, but I think if you're rich and you're spending money, I think you're still stupid if you don't do App Store optimization, because you're basically losing conversions. Yeah. So, and it's the same with being lucky. You just need to understand the highest conversion rate as possible. Featuring by Apple, if I can get a 10% higher conversion rate, oh, I'm featured, great. I've 100,000 installs per day for free. But if I optimize my App Store and I have 110,000 free for a day, then I think that makes a lot of sense to do. And engagement, in the end, you can spend all the money you want on marketing. If your app sucks and if your game's not fun, you have a lot of installs, but your retention does like this, and then nobody comes back and it's wasted money anyway.
I would like to add something about engagement that we're seeing, and something basic. Maybe I mentioned the obvious here, but everybody here share the same object to, in the one hand, to create great apps and games, so people will love and will be happy with that, and on the other hand, to attract the most quality users inside the game. And as Blackstar, it's ongoing process. You need to optimize. I mean, everybody here is do some optimization process. It's starting from the game developer who optimizes his game, and you want them to be the awesome game you can create. And then there is all the media channels, so the ad tech partners who optimize the creatives. And I just heard, I think last day was a great lecture about how you can put so much effort about creating, but optimize the creatives, and you can optimize your the segment, the user, the ad units, everything can optimize. But one of the things that we ask ourselves is, if I'm a user and I see a banner ad or a video ad, and there is car racing too. How do I know that this game is really worth playing? I mean, how do you know it's really awesome game? And I did everything right. I did the app store optimization right, and I did the creative right. But still, there is so many games, as you said. Now it's not 2008, and I want to know if I should download and engage with that. And one of the things that we see missing is what we call value-driven marketing, and how you can deliver value through your ads campaign. And you need to think about that, that when I'm a user, I immediately understand the value. So think about, instead of promoting your app as a one piece and say, hey, this is car racing 2, download, it's free, when the word free is not so much value today, maybe it was back then. How about, engage users with different types of values and promote like 100 coins for these specific users and experience points for the other users, and attach to a banner, and when immediately see this ads unit or other place, you understand the value of it. So I think if you invest more time in it, there is a lot of things you can do about this engagement, and definitely about re-engagement. When you already understand the value of the game, now you need to bring him back to the game. So you need to find more valuable things to make him come. So if for example, you're not coming back, you can open him one level unlock. Or for example, that there is some critical time you need to spend in the game. Let's say if you not spend up to 2 hours, maybe not feel enough engaged and not come back. But if you have managed to increase that 2 hours to 3 hours, let's say, by giving him some extra experience points, some stuff, you feel that it's much more valuable. By the way, it's not, you need to do all of that, you need to do all the optimization process, but you still need to think about the user, how he sees the value of your app versus other apps.
Yeah, you spoke about engagement, and I think that it goes both ways. So there are things that, of course, engagement in your app can affect your app's optimization results, but it also the other way around, because every change to your mobile app install funnel, from the ads that you're showing, if you're changing the creatives or the copy or anything else, or you're playing between different channels and you're measuring their conversions, they change the engagement of users on the app. The conversion is just one metric. It's a super important metric, but it's one metric. And if you are optimizing for the wrong keywords, you might get good conversion maybe through the App Store, but then the engagement on the app is not going to be as you expected. So it feeds back to one another. You have to make sure that the copy and the creatives that you're using across the board and the sources that you're using are actually bringing the right users and not just installs. And any change that you're going to make to the keywords, the App Store elements, or anything that you're going to do in this App Store optimization funnel or mobile app install funnel as a whole is going to affect the engagement of users in your app.
And Gad, maybe you can elaborate, because many developers neglect the last part of this funnel, right? So there is the banner and the way to come to the App Store, but then there's the last funnel from the App Store page to the install, and you have like a very creative, innovative solution to attack that missing part in this journey. So maybe you can explain how exactly you do that and why this is so important.
Sure. So the first time that I was a game developer, and the first time that I've seen this problem is that I did my first mobile app and understood that no matter what I do, we iterated on the product and optimized the product itself, and we bought a little bit of traffic and we experimented, and then we put a lot of ads out there and we optimized for ads. And if you've seen lectures here and talked to some of the biggest companies and the most successful around, they'll tell you that they're doing amazing things. They're bringing influencers and they're bringing users from different sources and traffic sources and whatever. But at the end of the day, everyone lands on the store. And the app stores are not just a gateway. As a developer, I was mistaken in the beginning and I said, okay, I'm going to optimize everything. They're going to get to the store. I'll put something there, which is okay. And then the right users will install. And the truth is, if you want to put some numbers into it, is that the majority of users don't really install. I mean, it's not that conversion rates on the stores are 70% and you're trying to optimize to 75%. Conversions on the store could be 1%, 2% for interstitial ads, or maybe, 40%, 25%, 27% for good games or good products out there. So what we felt back then, and the developers kind of lost control of the heart of the funnel, where the most crucial decision in the life cycle of the user is going to happen. If you're just going to install this game, if it's compelling for the user. And what we did is we started when there was no Google Play or experiments, and still not today in iOS. We actually cloned the app stores. So we cloned those pages, and we started sending traffic to these pages. And we collected the data. So we've seen how many users are installing, what are they doing, what are they spending there, how much time are they spending. And it's fantastic, and it's very important to measure, and it goes back to, of course, what you guys are doing in attribution and others, to measure the exact conversion rate of each and every channel. You have to do it. You can't do without it. But once you can measure that and you can test different variations, you can. We've seen clients that are even doubling their conversion rates. And I think that this is your goal. Your goal is not to take the conversion rate from 20% to 22%. That's good. That's great. That's going to cut significantly the cost of acquisition. But I really think, and we see it across the board, that you can really double your conversion. You can really do a really good job. And you do that, it goes back to what you said, not by testing once and finding the right screenshot that works, and not by doing a few experiments and just to tick that you've done that. It's an ongoing process. It's like Google Analytics. It's like Optimizely. It's like everything that you do on your website. And for me, a good ASO team is a team that could do as well on the web. That there are people that are doing growth hacking and.
But if I may interrupt, you'd say your conversion doubles in the App Store. You were talking before about the engagement of the user, but do you then also see that if you double the conversion in the App Store, that actually the engagement of the user goes up or goes down or stays the same? Because in the end, you want more engaged users. If I have double the amount of users and double the amount of cost for my hosting environment, but the engagement goes down, how do you find the sweet spot between the engagement of the user so that you're actually converting the right user? Because I rather have a lower percentage conversion from the App Store and a higher percent of engaged users. So how do you do that?
And God, I'll give you another example from my days at sport.com. When Apple just introduced the video preview in the App Store page, we saw that many developers, actually the number of installs decreased. So many app developers stopped this video preview in the App Store. But what was interesting is that the user that did install understood much better what the app was about, and then they were much more engaged. So on the overall, we saw an increase in the number of organic installs with a decrease on the number of paid installs. So this also reflects on how optimizing not only conversion rate, but overall organic installs.
Yeah, well, first of all, of course you're right. The end goal is not, we're not going to the bank with conversions. We're going with engagement and product KPIs, but there is a very strong correlation between that. So there's no easy way in doubling the conversion. It's not like if you'll go to the App Store and you put some things that are not coherent with your actual product, and users will just install to get a free iPad, just as an example, and then they'll go into your game and they'll see that it's very different, then it doesn't make sense. So the way to do it, and I can say a word about the effect of adding video actually to the App Store and what it actually does to users. The way to do it is you optimize for conversions on testing, be it on Google or iOS, doesn't matter. And then you have to track the effect of that. You have to track the effect of that of payments and engagement and other metrics to make sure that your assumptions were right. To add on video, 100% users that are more engaged with the App Store, it could be watching videos or it could be scrolling through the screenshots. They're kind of checking out your game before they're installing. The App Store is part of your onboarding process. One of the biggest mistakes I think developers can do is to imagine their onboarding process starts on the app. So yeah, the user downloads my app, and now I need to explain to him who am I and why am I different. This is wrong. The onboarding process starts on the ad. This is the first time that you get the attention of the user. It has this first impression. When he goes to the App Store and plays the video, the impression is stronger because he learns more about you. And if you ended up installing, this user will probably have a higher lifetime value.
That is actually what I was trying to get to. I mean, the expectation with your landing page needs to convert with the actual app or game that you're installing. Because we can create a great conversion rate by putting some girls in bikinis on an image in the App Store, but in the end, that's not what the user then expects when he installs the game and he starts playing a match 3 game. So I think that's number one, and I think also from ad to app. So the whole funnel from seeing an interstitial or a video to the landing in the App Store to actually playing the game needs to be in line and in expectation of the user. I think that's one of the things that you really need to keep in mind. Not just focus on conversions or whatever, but make sure that the expectation of the user is right with what he's going to install, because then he's most likely going to engage. That's why organic traffic often is more valuable than starting to change, but then paid traffic. But because somebody installs the game with a certain expectation, and if that meets the expectation, he will definitely plays the game more engaged.
I just want to say I agree. Just to put to put what you said in the time frame. So we measure the amount of time that usually takes a user to click on an ad, go to the App Store, and install the app, and that's somewhere between 6 to 12 seconds. And just when you come to develop this mobile install funnel, and 100% agree, everything has to be coherent. You have to imagine this as a 12 seconds movie. The user clicks on the ad, a few seconds, go to the App Store, spends a few seconds, and goes to the app. And that's why it has to be coherent. Otherwise, you're not going to reach results.
I was going back to like making sure that you're getting the right user. I can't tell you how many iOS campaigns we come across that their keyword list is like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, just basically trying to get as big, the largest amount of keywords and downloads as possible. But it goes back to the most important thing is finding that user that's a loyal user. And so coming up with kind of there's a way to form keyword lists and descriptions and even the title that allows you to really increase your downloads organically, and then also have that right user, the correct user.
Blake, I have a question around business models, because as a developer, first you understand that App Store is very important. 70% of the installs come from organic and search and not from paid campaigns.
Only a super small percentage of all installs come from paid campaigns.
Yeah,
it's like below
20%. Yeah.
What?
20%. That's
No,
not
I think it's okay. Most recent, I thought it was even less than 10%.
So that's the first stage. The second stage is that it's very hard to do it by yourself. So you need to get the system from the experts on the field. But then on the last part, they have a problem with the business model, because why should I pay a 5K retainer with no guarantee on performance? And then you came with a new business model and how there is like zero risk for the developer, but still a way to work with these companies to increase the ASO activity.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is my background's always been in search, and so I to be honest, bought a couple apps and optimized them and significantly grew the traffic. And I said, we got to offer this to other people. And so instead of offering kind of the $1,000, $2,000 a month kind of flat fee for an ASO, we're performance based, like you mentioned. And so if we don't perform, we don't get paid.
How do you know if you've performed as a company? Is that an increased amount of organic downloads?
Exactly. Yeah. So going, if the company can track it correctly, organics, we come up with a baseline of where it's been over the last like 60, 90 days. We work with the client depending on if they're seasonal or whatever.
But if I run a paid campaign, how do I know that it's not a spin-off of my paid?
Well, if it's a huge spike from your paid, then organic's not all of a sudden a huge spike. So we take away all the big spikes or anything like that.
I just find it interesting. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
it's interesting to measure performance of organic and where it's driven from. That's actually the holy grail. If you know where your organic traffic is coming from.
Yeah, I mean that's
just push on that.
That's why we're really trying to work, closely with attribution companies to help.
And if you don't perform, you pay money to the developer.
If it decreases,
yeah, we waste time if we don't perform. So, but it works out for us and it works out for the developer. The developer gets increased organics. I mean, we come up with it mutually, and for us, we can usually make more, and we win.
Sure.
If they win, we win.
Yeah, Ted and Guy, I have a question for both of you. So we spoke about how important is it to have engaged users in the app, and your both companies are focusing on having better or more relevant users for the apps, right? From Guy from the retargeting perspective of having them more engaged, and Teddy from exchanging users with a strong segmentation layer. So maybe we can speak a bit about what should we really do to have better users for my app, thus helping the engagement, thus helping the organic in the ASO.
Sure, so I'll start by saying we sort of covered it there on the previous question. But what I believe is absolutely the most important aspect of discovery is, the understanding that a potential user have before they even hit the App Store page. And that does start with the ad. And that's why, I suppose you could say ad networks especially are some of the most innovative mobile companies out there. They're always pushing the boundaries in terms of ad formats available. You're seeing a huge push now to obviously video, native video and more around that. And even further beyond that are playable ads, right? Which are actually just pre-recorded videos and using some clever sort of hotspot technology as well. But that means the user has a seriously good understanding of what they're going to download before they even hit the App Store page. And I've also said that the worst thing about the App Store is the App Store itself, right? It's ridiculous to me that there's still only basically one place that you can download an application from. It's totally closed. That's not how the web operates either. And it's not how the Play Stores operate in China and the Far East as well. And you actually see a much better, aspect of discovery, much more original content, innovative contents highlighted in the Far East, especially in China, as opposed to the App Store. Again, if you look at the top charts, it hasn't changed that much at all. Yeah. So one of the things we strive to do at TapDAC is continuously push those ad formats, because I'm convinced that if you can have playable ads as an example, or give users the ability to play with an application or use it before actually downloading that application, then one, the engagement soars if that user goes on to install that application. And two, if you tie in the segmentation piece to that, then again, you can have a massive impact on both the conversion rate and the engagement. So that's really where I see it going. And of course, I'd love to see Apple relinquish their single distribution channel, but can't necessarily see that happening anytime soon.
Are you talking about streaming gameplay in a banner or something, or?
It's like a play before you install. Zynga were one of the first companies to introduce that. You play the game inside the banner and then decide if you want to install it or not. So, and that's similar to the video thing. Maybe less people will install the app, but people that will install will have much more chances to be very engaged and a high understanding of what is this app about.
What I understood is that the cost of those advertisements are relatively high compared to the user engagement. So the cost of streaming those apps is too high to be profitable in user acquisition. Is that correct or not?
To be honest, I see that technology is quite archaic now. For example, we are testing. I know a number of other front runners are testing as well. It's not streaming at all. It's you're actually pre-downloading that content, and it is in the form of a video, so it's not streaming on demand. So you've already actually downloaded that, so the cost of delivery is a lot less, which is why I believe the next big move. To me, it's crazy that video is only just turning to an ad
But still,
format.
in emerging markets, with the internet and bandwidth issue, that will still be an issue, right? Because we can take Indonesia and Southeast Asia as one of the most hot in trends application developer companies for really high quality users and pretty cheap. But then it's still an issue of how much internet bandwidth you can take for this video in play before you install ads.
Absolutely, but again, it comes back to preempting that. If you can pre-generate ad queues as an example, which is what a lot more networks are doing now, you can effectively deliver what would inherently be a much larger advert, but deliver it just as quickly if you're pre-generating the queues.
And we count on Zuckerberg to connect the world with the internet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but what I saw is that a friend of mine is doing the same thing with the playable ads, but then web to app. He saw a really high click-through rate, but a super low install rate. So that was an interesting aspect, because apparently then we go into App Store optimization. What's your experience with that if you offer those kind of ads?
Well, I think inherently a lot of people find ads annoying. That's probably the first thing to say. So regardless of the fact it's a playable ad or a video, it's still relatively intrusive. And of course, not many people would want to engage with an ad anyway. But as I was saying, people that do engage with that ad often do move to install. You see ludicrously high install ratios off them, much more than, say, traditional interstitials, obviously, and even video as well. So I think with all of these, it does, ads do come around to conversion ratio, and obviously the post-install analytics companies, Tune being one of them, it's down to that engineer or that developer to understand whether playable ads are a good investment of their time and money. But I think it's important for networks, especially, to continuously innovate around those type of ad units. That's for sure.
I also like to share two interesting examples that we had. We had one big customers gaming company in China, and they had this traditional banner ads that download the game and it's free. And then we did kind of an A/B test. We used the same media channels and same segment, same time. And instead of promoting the game, they put the game on the background and they create five different vouchers. Like they give like 500 woods, and then they give some special character, and then they give some other experience points, and they choose like from the virtual items some freebies attached to a banner. And what we saw that the quality was much higher. It was even 3 times more. But instead of click-through rates, for example, that some was less because people like more understand. Okay, I'm understand what I'm going to get inside the game, and if I'm willing to play, I will do so. And if not, so we see some changes in that. That was one thing. The next thing regarding re-engagement, which is interesting. One of the things about re-engagement is, you have users, they don't coming back, you want to try bring them back, and it's hard. One of the things that we're trying to experiment now is to do re-engagement, but not to the same game, but the same, if the publisher have few games. So for example, you have a user and he stopped playing the game. And you're trying to do a lot of re-engagement campaign, but he's not coming back. So after a while, what we're trying to do is we send them a push message and tell them, you know what, you have those virtual item leftovers. Let's just say you have 10,000 coins. You can exchange 500 coins to get a new magic sword in our new title. So it's like re-engagement between the games for the same publisher. And from the user point of view, he's really understand the value. It's, again, all related to how we can deliver value. And the user understand he can reuse his time and effort. And it's just quite new. And we still experience that. And we need to understand a lot of things. But we understand that it's need more than just, put all the things that you need to do, optimization. But you need to more show him some value that you really come into a game and play again.
Let's speak about localization a bit, because from our research, an app that is localized to a specific language can have a multiple 7 in the number of installs in that specific language. And also, because the App Store has only 30 stores, there are several countries that don't have a specific store, and they use it like the general, the US store or the French store. And then it's a matter of a strategy to decide of your keywords in all your planning here, if you want to focus on what specific country. So if the Belgium and France stores are together and there's different words that are more relevant for each language, you can play on this thing and increase your installs, because some keywords will be very competitive. What do you think about this localization in attacking this kind of more of specific targets?
Yeah, I think localization is huge. I mean, even when you're talking about English speaking, you have US, UK, Canada. They all use a lot of times different terminology for speaking about the same thing, or one letter off. And so all those things matter. And obviously you want to be speaking in the user's language. So I think localization is huge. I think obviously you should have kind of your I guess what you would say your US as your default, but there's you should be localizing in pretty much every market that you can. Like you said, there's 30 stores, so there's no reason not to localize.
Ilya, you had an interesting lecture about the connection between paid installs and organic installs. And all this ASO planning is for increasing organic installs. So maybe you can give us some hot tips from this.
The hot tips.
Tips, yeah.
Well, it was half a year ago, and the industry could change completely. So don't know if they're still
Nothing
valid.
is relevant.
No, but what we try to do is find a correlation between paid installs and organic installs, and then if you know whatever you call it, K factor, P factor, but if you know what the organic uplift is from your paid campaigns, then you can actually start understanding that, for example, Android utility apps, if you get one paid install, you don't have to expect any organic installs. But on iOS and gaming, if you have a paid install, spin-off could be on iOS 4 or 5 extra organic installs. So then you can start making decisions as a marketeer to say, okay, I'm going to run a campaign. I have 10,000 euros. What am I going to do? if you don't have any organic uplift, I would personally spend my money on buying high quality installs. If I had a game, I would take a chance and say, you know what, it's better to buy some volume. The quality of the install is maybe not that great, but the organic uplift of your campaign is higher. So you actually can start doing the calculation of a real install. So instead of paying $1, well, I wish there was a way to buy $1 installs these days, but to make it easy, if you buy $1 install and you actually have 3 or 4 organic installs, it's just you're not buying 1 install, you're actually buying 5 installs, so it's only 20 cents. And that's what we're trying to do with the white papers. Actually, Fixu, it's an agency. They have the Fixu indexes. It's a great source for every marketeer. You can actually go to the website and they just show you all kinds of this data, from what kind of organic uplift, what's the cost of a CPI per country. And this is actually what you try to do, is understand, okay, we come from the marketing attribution side, which is basically, I have a beep load of money and I'm going to spend it on user acquisition, but I want to know what actually brings me the ROI. But now we see that it's way more complex. You have organic, you have paid attribution, you have retention, you have your funnel metrics inside the game. So actually everything drills down to the conversion in the end from your user. And I think that's something that comes back over and over again. But optimizing your app store, I think it's a continuous process. And what we haven't talked about is actually what are your competitors found on. So what are your competitors using? So we don't only do games, we also do a lot of travel and e-commerce. And what we saw, for example, with hotels.com and Expedia is you just start looking, okay, what is my competitor actually using? How is their app store? What are the conversions? And then because we have all the data of your organic and paid growth, we can actually start estimating keyword volumes. And this is where it gets interesting for if you drive large volumes of installs, is then you can start saying, okay, I think this keyword's driven that percentage of my installs in the App Store. So you can actually start comparing, oh, I'm going to change keywords. Oh, is it better or worse? And I think this is something, but this is like app marketing 2.0, and not everyone's there yet, but that's where it's going. You just need to have a whole overview of the funnel to really understand the quality of your organic installs. Because back in the days, the organic installs were always much more valuable, but now we all talked about targeting, and so what you see that people are doing is they start understanding where the paid traffic actually is converting better. So the organic installs, the quality, and the paid installs are actually slowly crawling towards each other in the sense of value, I think.
Yeah. As one of the last questions, let's speak about being more data-driven. So there is many companies here like God and Ted and Guy and Ilya that you're generating very helpful information for app developers.
Yeah, but can I say one thing about data? The problem I'm having with, I used to be in games. I made my first game in '98, and people are completely data-driven at this time. Just make a fun game. I just want to say that's the number one thing. Just make sure that your game's fun and that you can play it well and that people like it, and then you can do the metrics afterwards.
So if you want to have no chance of succeeding, do that, right? So
if you want to play by yourself, do that.
Yeah.
No, I don't agree. But this is the problem. Everybody's saying, oh, you need to be data-driven. Yes, you need to understand the metrics, but in the essence, the good games are fun. Yeah. And that's why we see a revival of paid games, actually. So paid games are coming back.
I'll tell you in terms of data why I think it's important, and most of the developers neglect that, is using data from different sources. So if I have ASO keywords, I can take these keywords for Facebook campaign targeting, and if I have alpha and beta testers and test flights, I can use these users for Facebook. So all the acquisition, monetization, analytics, tracking, all the data sources, I can use them for the other kind of activities to be more data-driven, because I have this data already, right?
Yeah, but you need to know what you want to achieve before you understand the data. A lot of people have a lot of data, but they don't know, what do I do with it? And I think this is what we try to teach people, is if you have all this data, what do you want to get out of it actually? Because everybody's talking about big data, data-driven, but I speak to a lot of people that I'm like, okay, and then what do you want to achieve? Yeah, that's very hard. Actually, what do you want to do? You want to engage the user faster? Because some people just want to make money quickly. They don't care if a user just plays it for 2 weeks. If they just disable the ads, that's their goal. But some people just want to have like a super long life cycle of the user.
Do you know why big data is like teenage sex? Because everybody speaks about it, nobody know what it is, and everybody thinks others are doing it, right?
And
about
nobody does it in the end.
Exactly. Maybe you have some questions before we wrap this up.
Hey, I was wondering how you would recommend getting started with keyword optimization, given that Google Play doesn't use keywords, and so you don't have the A/B testing on the App Store, and you have to do a release for every keyword change. It's tricky to get a feedback loop, and it's also tricky because everything's multifactorial to see if that was responsible for your changes. Like, what's just advice for approaching keyword optimization?
Can I answer it?
Go for it.
Now it starts being salesy, of course. But no, what you have is we have a tool where you just fake the App Store. He was already talking about it. You just fake a landing page in iOS, and then basically you start checking conversions on different versions. So it's A/B testing of your App Store. That's the easiest way to start understanding, and it's mainly graphics, to test graphics instead of keywords. But I think you should just understand for yourself what is the target audience, what kind of users do you want to target, and then I think this is already what you said before. It's very important that you target the right user for your game. So maybe otherwise you have high conversions, but then in the end the user is not engaged because what you're targeting him for is not actually what he gets in the game.
Ilya, I'll give you a tough question. You said to fake the App Store is mainly graphics, but God can tell you that it's a lot of statistics and data calculation on the back of it. And
Yeah,
that's
but you test the graphics. That's mainly what we use it for, not the keywords.
Okay.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll give you like a few tips, which I'm sure are applicable for each and every one of you when you're trying to build the App Store pages and optimize for that. I'll put keywords aside, for instance. One way to test keywords is through the title with modifiers, which is not something that I recommend that much from a conversion perspective, because the biggest tip that I can give you is users on the app stores are super lazy. Super lazy. They want you to do their job for them. They don't have time. They don't go through the screenshots and videos and then make a consolidated decision if your game is better than others. They're lazy and they want to get the message immediately. And that's why when you think of Google Play versus iOS, regardless of testing and which methodology you'll use, the structure of the page is completely different. Google Play, there's a feature graphic on the top and a short description, and an icon, of course. These are the most important elements for conversions on the App Store. So when you guys prioritize your work around Google Play, come up with ideas of why should someone install my game? Why is it different? What makes it better? Let's make sure that when a user lands on the App Store and he sees only the feature graphic, the short description, and the icon, he can understand it immediately. Now take this App Store, even before it's live, show it to 30 people. Ask them what they feel when they see this. Forget about the screenshots. You can test screenshots on Google Play as much as you can. The latest rates are 17% of your users are going to scroll through the screenshots on Google Play. That's not such a big number. The video and the feature graphic much more important. Now when you look at iOS, it's completely different because the elements that are most important are the two first screenshots. So what you need to do is, again, make sure that if you're showing your App Store page without engaging with it, without watching the video, without scrolling, you show it to someone in the street, they know to explain what this game is all about. And if you don't do that, it just creates lots of confusion. So those will be my tips. My second thing will be when you design the third, fourth, fifth screenshot or the content of the video, you're designing for a completely different persona. So the first persona knows a little bit about you from the ad, goes to the App Store, sees the two screenshots. Now, when you come to find the third and fourth screenshot, now you have to take into account that this is a person that have seen what you showed them either on the feature graphic on Google Play or the first two screenshots on iOS and is not convinced. Now, this could be a fantastic user. It's a lucrative group. They're engaging with your store. They didn't leave yet, like most of their friends. So optimize for that. Show something very different. Never be repetitive. Make sure that each and every screenshot and icon is just very different than one another. And then you have a good chance to actually convert more users through the funnel.
I think also just like to get back to, I think the basic of the question is how do I come up with keywords and where do we apply that? And so that's probably the hardest thing is to come up with that keyword list. And there's companies like I believe you guys do this in App Annie, where there's like a keyword tool, you can see what your competitors are doing. Our philosophy is a little different. We believe that, you know, there's 100 other people that are looking at your competitors and they all want to rank for those keywords. So there's a way to combine both long tail and generic keywords. That being said, it actually how you input them into the to Google Play is you know, through the description and through the name. If you want like this much like a very simple basic answer, since there's no keyword field like there is in iOS, and then iOS keyword field and title are probably from a keyword standpoint. When we're just looking at keyword standpoint, are the most important aspects there.
So you spoke a lot about images, you spoke a lot about description and keywords. I had a chat a couple of days ago, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on names, on the name of the app. Because, you know, when you're talking to someone and you're out in a club, like we have been probably most nights this week, you wake up the next day, you totally forgot what the name of the app is. And if you can't spell it and you can't remember it, do you talk to a lot of people about changing the name of the app? Is that a common thing you come across?
We do, but not. But if they have like if the brand, if we always want to keep the brand name in there, so we always want a brand first. We always say don't give up the brand for optimization. There's a way to meet in the middle. If you know your brand name is 30 characters long and Google Play gives you 30 characters, then you have no choice but to just use the brand name. So I would say you still always want to use the brand. Putting keywords in, I think you do that after the fact. But
And
brand
maybe in the
brand
title
recognition
you
is
can-
most important.
And it also ties into localization as well, because one name in one country might mean something really abusive in another.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can shed a few more things about the title. So when we've tested with big brands, like when you say brands, like people that have really high brand awareness, and new games and new apps that don't have much high awareness. For the larger brands out there, I don't know if it speaks to all of you guys, but for the larger brands, if it has a high brand awareness, the title doesn't make a lot of difference on the conversion. So if you add modifiers to their brand, because they always add their brand and they put a dash and then put some modifiers, some of them for ASO, some of them just to say a few words about their app, the majority of the users don't really read the modifiers if you're a known brand. If you're a new game or an indie game and you actually want to push your game out there, the title is very, very important because it's one of the first things that the user looks at and in the store. If you have a non-descriptive app game or app name, so if I show your name to someone in the street, you have no idea what you're doing, you should add modifiers. It's okay, and I think that at that point, I would use the keywords in other places, and I wouldn't stick it just as a list in the title, because if you're a non-descriptive, you have a non-descriptive title, and then you're just keywords after, what do you expect the user to do? So he looks at the title and said, this could be a nice game, then there's keywords there. He doesn't play this game. He needs to understand what you're doing. And then so the title, so this would, what I would do for titles. Big brands, add modifiers. If you don't have a high brand awareness, stick to saying something which is compelling.
Thank you for attending.